Good morning, everybody. It's Sunday, and welcome to another edition of Church Online. As you can see, I'm joined in the studio today by my sweet number one, Miss Lee Lee. You want to speak?
Hi.
Hi. She is helping me today, and in fact, I'll just get right into it. I've been praying and thinking about what to say, and this morning I was going for a walk, and we're moving right now. We're just moving down the street to another house, but guys, might as well be moving across the country because it's just as difficult to pack everything up. And I was walking and praying, and we're just packing everything. So my wife wasn't going to come, so I was just planning on coming on my own. And a scripture came to mind where Jesus sends out the 12, and he sends them out specifically 2 by 2. He doesn't want us to do things alone. He wants us to work, but he doesn't want us to work alone. He wants us to have a helper. He wants us to have a companion. It says where 2 or more are gathered, there I'm in the midst. And so much of our Christian faith, I don't know where it started, but we started to really individualize it. We started to make it all about God and us. We started to make everything about us reading the Bible and our individual interpretation, our individual revelation, what God is leading me to do. And the scripture doesn't seem to say that. I mean, there's so many things that pertain to our hearts. There's so much about our free will and our minds and our responsibility. But so much of that stuff is actually truly affected by others. And we're influenced by one another. I was talking to my cousin last night who lives out in LA now, and she was like, yeah, I'm a lot more liberal than I used to be. And I was like, well, that's part, because who you're around and is a part of is how you're influenced. And so anyway, I'm encouraged to have some help today because God, I really felt like brought that to mind. And today in our church, what we're doing, and just as I guess some housekeeping, but with this virus and stuff's continuing to be an issue, what we're asking the question, how can we safely get together? Because I don't know about you, but there's never been a time where I feel like it's more important from a mental health standpoint. But beyond that, there's never been a time it's been more important for us to be having discussions and seeing each other face to face. And I think we really need that right now as a people. And so how do we do that? And with half capacity rules and people really concerned about the virus, we're just trying to think of safe ways that we can effectively be together and still do good and serve and follow Christ. And so today we're getting together here at the office in just a little while. We're just going to pick up trash. Pick up trash. Woohoo! You ready for that? You got something?
No.
No? Okay. She's got her fan. She's going to look cute and stay cool. But I wanted to read the scripture to you, and it sets up the Jesus sending out his disciples 2 by 2. It says, Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, preaching the good news of the kingdom and healing every disease and sickness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, and therefore to send out workers into his harvest field. I was just reflecting. It says he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. They were helpless and harassed. And so it's like, I feel like that's kind of like where we are. We're like sheep without a shepherd right now. We don't have leadership across, or not effective leadership, or we're unsure about our leadership, or we're unsure where to look for leadership these days. And that's not a new problem. That's not a new problem. But Jesus says that he has an answer. He says to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful. I mean, like there's plenty of work, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field. we know as Christians we have an obligation, and we're supposed to evangelize and make disciples, but I don't think there's very few or any of us that are really doing that. We all are in general agreement about, we need to preach and we need to help people know Jesus, and we need to bring people to the faith, and we need to baptize them and everything. But we're just hoping they'll come to us. Jesus sends his disciples out. He sends them out 2 by 2. He gives them instructions. And a lot of the instructions are, you don't need these things. Here's all the stuff you don't need to have. And our ministry, often our ministry stuff is just the other way around. We're thinking, well, in order to do this ministry, or this ministry, we've got to do all these things and have all these things. And Jesus is like, you don't need a tunic. You don't need a staff. You just take one set of clothes with you. And not only that, but he instructs them that they're going to fail, that are not necessarily fail, but that they're going to have some adversity. They're going to have some difficult times. Hey, he says, if you go into a place and somebody offers you peace, you go to that place and you hang out there for as long as that peace stays on the house. But if somebody doesn't, then just leave. Sweep the dust off your feet and keep going. He's like, you're going to experience both, and you need both, because it was about them. It was about them learning and growing into fitting the mold that they needed to fit. They were putting on big shoes and growing into those shoes. And so I am always looking for just the practical means, or just what can we do. A lot of discipline is not doing crazy big things. It's doing what you can do a little bit at a time, and then incrementally you can do more than you could before, and eventually you can meet a large goal. And so, looking back in my life and just in times when I don't know what to do, when I don't know where to go, I always come back to Christ. When I'm deeply, deeply afraid, when I am not living under grand illusions, when I have moments of clarity, I come back to Christ, and he's my rock and he's my center. I look to him and I listen for him, and I hear love, and I see his actions, and I feel like I get a sense. I feel like I know Christ because he's in me. But then a lot of times I'm like, well, then what do I do? I mean, if I'm supposed to evangelize, if I'm supposed to preach, if I'm supposed to read, I'm doing all these things, Lord, what? And a lot of times when I don't know what to do, the answer for me has been from Christ, well, you need to serve. Just serve. Serve how? Serve anyway. Serve somehow. And so it's always been the right answer. If I haven't known what to do as a Christian, I don't know, quit talking. Shut up and just serve. Find a need and meet it, as my friend likes to say. And a lot of times I don't know how to serve. And I feel like God says, clean. Like, just serve. How do I serve? Just start cleaning. I mean, cleaning is the beginning of just taking responsibility. And if you're too good for that or you're above that, well then okay. But Jesus said, the Son of Man didn't come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. And if anyone among you wants to be a leader, if you want to lead, then you should be a servant of all. And so there's never there's always a right time to serve. Always a good place to start. And that's where we're starting today. Picking up trash, taking responsibility for maybe other people's messes, not trying to do anything more than what we can do, and start somewhere. And so I don't know. I would love to invite you today, wherever you are, because this is the question for everybody. Where do we start? Where do you start? Well, you start with you, and you start with your own self. You start with your own heart. You got to work up the nerve to get out of your own head and serve. Start serving. Where? Start cleaning. Where? How about at your house? How about your room? How about outside your front door, your neighborhood? How about anywhere? But not doing anything and just expecting everything to somehow happen is just how things never happen. You know what I mean? Like, that's how stuff never goes down. I mean, how many of the problems that our country is facing, the problems of unaffordable water that's starting to happen all over our country, or just any of them. Pick a serious problem. I'll bet you somewhere somebody was like, I'm just not going to worry about that. Let's just let somebody else deal with that. Let's not take responsibility here. Let's just kick the can on someone down the road and hope that it's on somebody else's watch. It seems like most problems started because someone was negligent. They just decided that they weren't going to help. They weren't going to do anything. They were just going to let it sit. And that sort of indifference and apathy is what makes the world fall to pieces. And so, hey, we're just taking, I just want to encourage you to take responsibility, to take, to serve, and not to do it alone, but to find somebody. Jesus sent people out 2 by 2, right, babe? Mm-hmm. And you're more encouraged, and more. There's just a lot more that can happen when 2 are together. And often we just see miracles and stuff when we give God a chance, when we open ourselves up to what He wants us to do. Be a doer, not a hearer only, deceiving your own selves. Action creates more action, reaction, more action. So be involved today. Get involved wherever you are. Serve. Figure out somebody to serve. Jesus promises that there's all sorts of work to be done, but there's just not enough people that are willing to do it. And if we're the people, what are we doing? How are we doing? And where are we going to start? We're starting today picking up trash. 10:30 at the church office today for those of you who can make it. And if those of you who can't, we love you. And just know that we're planning on having some services outside somehow very soon. And we're going to try to create environments that are as safe as possible, but that allow us to continue along with what's important. Because this virus, all of the turmoil in our world, doesn't change what's important. All right, it doesn't change what is important. I've said that all along. I think it's still true. And we have to protect some of those things. We have to work to keep our communities going. We have to work to keep our fellowships intact, and to keep our faith strong to persevere. So, love you guys. Thank you so much. Thanks, Lee, for joining me today. And we will see you soon.